Okay, so welcome back, Kimberly, from last mod. It's nice to find you here again, and I hope you feel the same way. This is DES 470, and it's Advanced Advertising Strategies. So what I wanted to do tonight is I wanted to start off by just going over some of the information that we can find in the course instructions here, or the course information, I should say. So what this course is about, the rules of advertising design from both a creative and a business perspective. Case studies include print, web, TV, showcasing advertising at work, persuasion, the use of color, psychology, and composition, copywriting, and typography, plus brand communication. Course projects should include things like ads for social media, websites, magazines, transit, outdoor applications, printed deliverables, and a multi-part campaign. So your prerequisite would be DES 245, which I would imagine at this point you will have achieved. So let me move down a little bit. Upon successful completion of this course, the student, you, will be able to create and present a multi-part / phase advertising campaign, learn and utilize advanced advertising strategies, create multiple advertising design pieces for a year-long campaign. It means you're going to coordinate. These pieces that you will create will all be coordinated. Define and discuss the ethical and social responsibility of advertisers, discuss integrated brand advertising, and campaign cohesiveness through design. Define a target audience and discuss its impact on design mediums and advertising strategies. Research and discuss the different positions in a design firm and the role they play in the company. Defend your design and creative choices in your campaign through self-evaluation techniques. Your learning objectives will be to compare the difference between traditional advertising, print, outdoor campaigns, TV, radio, to non-traditional advertising. We'll look at the benefits of each and the limitations and expenses and differences of each. Social media, electronic publications. You'll research and define 5 social impacts of advertising. Let me scroll this down a little bit more. Whoop, wrong way. There we go. Move this up out of the way. I think what I'm going to do is, you've seen enough of me, so I'm going to stop the video if that's okay with you. There we go. Okay. Research and define 5 social impacts of advertising. Identify and describe 5 ethical responsibilities of advertisers. Identify and define the general roles of account managers, creative art directors, graphic designers, production artists, and copywriters in an advertising agency or design firm. This ought to be something that you should be very interested in. Get a sense of what these different people, what their roles are, who they're responsible to, and who they interact with on the greatest level. You'll create a year-long advertising campaign that adheres to communicating a client's brand of the campaign concept as determined by the campaign strategy. So the most important thing for you to understand about this is, while this is something that sounds monumental in doing, you're going to find out that it isn't so monumental. It really comes down to defining a really good campaign strategy, which will be applied through the course of a year over several different areas, such as maybe print advertising campaigns, social media, electronic publications, and so on. You'll learn about target audiences. The companies that you work for will be looking to approach target audiences. and conduct research into developing a concept to create a cohesive multi-part campaign strategy. They'll identify three methods of advertising strategies. There are many, more than three. And define the advantages and disadvantages of each method. Everything in here has advantages and disadvantages. When you're talking about strategies, the strategies must connect to your customer, the product or service that you are selling. It's very difficult to do certain strategies with certain companies. There have been creative geniuses that have done very unexpected connections, drawn unexpected connections successfully. But as on a whole, you have to be very careful how you link companies to strategies. What kind of strategies apply properly to companies? Well, so we'll look at this. You're going to research and define three advanced advertising methods used in marketing and advertising. Discuss the effect of these methods in an advertisement in methods of advertising, and what kind of impact they would have on consumers' behavior. Communicate advertising design ideas and visual concepts in writing and presentation. Define the concept of integrated brand promotions and the role advertisers play in success. So at this point, I want to give you a little bit of interesting information. At least I think it's interesting. I am currently taking a master's degree course in visual communications. This course is similar to the courses that I have been asked to take in this Masters of Visual Communications course. I'm currently finishing it. I've basically got to submit my final project, which might be completed before the end of this course. So it's very possible that I would be able to show you that in one of our sessions. You could actually see the final presentation and what at any rate, if it's not ready, what I will be able to do is go through, and I intend to do this, I intend to go through a number of things that I did as applied to what you have to do in here. Hopefully giving you some ideas as to what you can do with your work. And as a matter of fact, right here, this is my course, and I have Studio Lab, design research, and my thesis. So what this means essentially is I had to do Studio Lab, then I had to do my design research. I am currently finishing my thesis, and my thesis will include a final project, okay? The Studio Lab is made up of, just to give you an idea, it's stages of design thinking, defining the creative challenge, research, idea generation, refinement, prototyping, implementation, post-course assessment. I have to tell you, on a certain level, this is very similar to what you will be doing here. And that's why I bother showing you this, because I'm in the process now of completing this. The design research, I'll show you this too, because this is kind of interesting as well. Okay, so the how and why, design literacy, analysis and proposition, visual research, analytical tools, all of these things, theory and practice, audience and message, process and materials, synthesis, post-course assessment. So you can see that things like process and materials, this is similar to what we're going to be doing in this class. Audience and message, very similar to what we're going to be doing. Theory and practice. There's very strong similarities between all this. So again, I'm only pointing this out to you because I'm currently doing almost the exact same thing that you are doing on a master's level. That's what I'm doing. So mine, as you can see, go back to Studio Lab for 1 second, whereas you have 4 weeks, okay? Each one of these things, whether I finish it in a week or not, each one of these things theoretically represents a week. So let's say in learning modules, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 weeks on just this one course. Then after I'm done with that, I move on to my research. And as you can see in research, same thing. I have another 8 weeks, I think it's 8 weeks. We'll see in a second. 8. Yeah, I have another 8 weeks plus the post-course assessment. So you're talking about 16 weeks just for those 2 courses. And those 2 courses lead me to my thesis and also my final project. And what my final project is remarkably similar to what you are going to be doing here. The major difference between your course and my course, go back to yours, okay? Major difference between the two is where you have to come up with a year-long advertising campaign, which is the easy part. You have to then implement it through the course of a different group of media pieces, okay? Right here. Print, advertising, radio, non-traditional. In my course, what I had to do, I had to pick a business just like you had to pick a business. Now, you're being asked to pick from a group of business. In my course, I was also offered a group of business. You'll see this as we get into our assignments and stuff. You will be offered a course, I mean a number of different businesses that you can choose one to go in and do the research on and develop your brand. My course had a similar thing where they suggested several different options for me. They weren't specifically saying pick this business, pick that business, but they suggested pick this sort of business, like a pet care business. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't so much that this is Pat's Pet Care. It was just pick some pet care business or pick some video business or something. So what I did, I actually have a business that I do work for. I'm going to get into this in greater detail later on. I actually picked a company that I was doing work for. And what I chose to do was I chose to do an extension of what I was doing for that company, taking that product that was being produced by me for that company and applying it to another media type. Okay, a media type that is coordinated but different enough that it would add additional benefit to the business. So I'm telling you this because this is kind of what you're going to be doing. You're going to be coming in here. You're going to be coming up with a campaign, which means that it's going to be something that will run for at least a year. And it should include a number of different applications, how you would apply this. And what we really want you to do is think very seriously about the media types that you choose. That's very important because there's so many of them to choose out there. And the first thing you're going to be asked to do is to consider those media types and talk about their pluses and their minuses and try to get an idea of where, if you were actually doing this, you would find the greatest percentage of your market and where you would find the greatest benefit for the money that you would be able to invest in this particular bank of projects that you're going to produce, okay? So basically that's what you're doing. What I'm going to do is through the course of this, I think I said this before, I am going to be showing you things that I did in my course that I think are sort of relevant because it won't be exactly the same, but there'll be similarities to what I'm doing there. And I'm hoping that by doing that, it will give you some ideas as to how you might approach this stuff. So that's what we're going to be doing. And now let's go to our discussions because I think we should probably, oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to go to discussions first. I want to go to announcements first. There we go. All right, so announcements. This is just a welcome announcement. This talks about a week 1 assignment. And what I have done, I'll quickly show you, is I've attached this document for you to look at. I'm providing you with an example of my own work to give you something to think about. This talks briefly about the assignment that I chose, which is Dr. Carino. And you'll see this when I get in there. And this is the kind of thing I'm giving you this particular one to look at as a first, because this is kind of one of the earlier things that I did, basically as an introduction of Dr. Carino to my professor, letting my professor know what I plan to do. And I will be showing you, as I say, through the course of this, some of the things that I did with Dr. Carino to do the project that we're working on. Something which I think is actually a very exciting project. And it's right now being produced. The actual production part of it is happening right now. I cannot say when exactly I will have it. I anticipate it before the end of this mod. So I more than likely will be able to show it to you before the end of the mod. I'm not going to get into any more details than that at this point, but I just wanted you to get an idea of what I will be doing in order to help you, aside from, general discussion. And now, tonight, I am going to be going over these links. I have another document in here. This document represents the links that I am going to be discussing with you, which is part of what you have to discuss in your discussion, okay? We'll be talking about that next. So that document is for you. I will be going over that tonight, but so that you don't have to kill yourself trying to get that information should you want to do it. The links are all on this document. So it'll make it easier for you to just go in there and grab it, open it up on your computer and go to those links, and then you can use them as part of your discussion information, okay? All right, so let's go back to announcements. The final announcement I have is our learning coach. And I don't know whether you got to use Wanda or not, but Wanda Bryant is back with me this mod, and Wanda will be your learning coach. So you have me and you have Wanda, and here is the information for Wanda. And just so that you know, and you probably remember, I've mentioned this to you before, I am available in Blackboard on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights from 7 p.m. Mountain Time to 12 p.m. Mountain Time. So that's something that you can keep in mind. You also have my phone number and my email, and if you want to reach me for any reason, you need to discuss something with me or ask for clarification on something, please feel free to do that. But as a backup, here's Wanda's information, and this will give you some idea how you might be able to reach her as well. Those are my 3 discussions, and let's get back to our main. We'll go to our discussion. Okay, week 1 discussion. All right, so the first thing that I want to point out to you, very important for you to understand, the due date for your primary discussion post is July 12th at 11:59 p.m. So not your replies, but your principal discussion posting should be done to get full credit July 12th, 11:59 p.m. Okay? And you need to have 2 replies due by Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. That means that once you put your discussion in, I will come in and act as your fellow student. I will respond to your post. I will talk about your post, critique it, whatever you want to call it. I will look it over, read it over, and discuss it with you. And then you can reply to me, at which time I will reply back to you, and then you can reply back to me again. And then you will have achieved your 2 replies with me, okay? And again, it's very important because I need to give you 60 points. And the only way I'm going to be able to give you 60 points is if this gets achieved. I need to have, by Wednesday, 11:59, July 12th, your initial post, your main topic post, and then your 2 replies before the end of the week, okay? Also, do me a favor. Don't give me your second. Well, I guess if you do your second reply, if I give you my reply and you do a second reply by the end of the day, Saturday, as long as you make it within the deadline, that'll be fine, okay? All right, so that is what you need to do. Now let's talk about what we're going to be discussing. So the learning objectives. Here we're going to start right in by identifying methods of advertising strategies. We're going to define the advantages and disadvantages of each method. There are many different methods of advertising strategies. You only need to come up with 3. And in a moment, I'm going to take you and show you some of these methods, okay? And then we're going to research and define 3 advanced advertising methods used in marketing and advertising and discuss the effect of these methods of advertising, the methods advertising have on consumer behavior. Okay, so background. Advertising strategies are used to support the marketing plan and persuade customers. So really what that means is your strategy is what builds your marketing plan. It has to have a strategy. There has to be some big thought to it. What is the advertising going to say, do, and try to achieve? Without having these factors before you actually begin, you don't have anything. Advertisers have all sorts of tricks up their sleeves to persuade customers to buy products or gain brand loyalty. So really, even though they have all these tricks, it really is important for them to choose the right tricks for the product and the brand. I mean, you just can't do anything. I mean, there are some people that have been incredibly creative. I think I said this before, and have used unconventional tricks or methods to, approach customers about product or brand. But these are not something that people do with regularity. A lot of the times you'll find that most of these strategies become rather conventional because they're looking for something that they can pretty much count on as working. So it's important to choose the right graphic. Oh, it's as important as this choosing the right kind of method is as important as choosing the right graphic, headline, slogan, and logo. See, all these things work together to set the tone for the campaign. It's important to consider this before any creative content is produced. So really what goes on is the advertising strategy is the very first thing that you think about. What is it that you're going to do? What's the point? What is it you're going to be trying to persuade people to buy or do? That's really what it comes down to. You don't even want to get into a situation where you're thinking about graphics or copy or color. You're thinking about the what of it. What is the big what? What is that big picture? Once you have that, then you can start thinking about what it will take to make that occur. So now let's take a look a little further down. So for this discussion, what you're going to do is you're going to choose 2 of the following advanced advertising strategies. You're going to find that in my week 1 discussion links, I have given you a couple of links to where I went to do some research on this. And I've given them to you so that you could go in there and you could take a look. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to open that shortly and we're going to go in and we're going to talk about them in detail. That's part of what we're going to do. But I'm just right now getting you into what we're going to be looking to do on the large scale in this discussion. So you're going to research and discuss in detail the strategy. You're choosing 2. And they show you down here a number of them. There you can use emotion or humor, call to action, emotion fear, emotion greed, emotion vanity, and even, believe it or not, emotion envy. All of these things and more. Exclusivity, envy. There's one that are similar. Bandwagon, join with others. Facts and figures. Testimonials and celebrity endorsements. All of these things. And I think if you really stop and think about it, your experiences watching something like the television, you can pretty much count on the fact that you've probably seen examples, every single one of these type of strategies applied on the TV. More than likely, if you read magazines, which a lot of people still do, you find this being used there too. If you take a look at advertisements on the web, you see the same kind of thing being used there. So that's why they're common strategies, okay? So anyway, you're going to choose two, and you're going to research and discuss them in detail. And you're going to also find examples to illustrate the strategies you have chosen. So let's say you've chosen to do something on emotion or humor, are using emotion humor. What you will do is you'll go and find something that actually utilizes humor as a method in the advertising strategy. Or if you're going to be using something that's like a celebrity endorsement, what you're going to do is you're going to find an advertisement that's utilizing a celebrity for the endorsement of the product. That's basically what you're going to do. For your citation, let's put it this way. If you take a look at what I've supplied you with, any one of the ones that I've supplied you with, if you decide to use any of the information out of any of the three that I've shown you here, you could certainly cite those, and there would be your citation. So, but for your citation, you must use articles that show examples of campaign utilizing the strategies you chose. You can also find articles from experts that run marketing companies and develop these type of strategies on a daily basis. Your initial and reply post should work to develop a group understanding of the topic. So really, what I will do is I will respond to you, and between the two of us together, we'll see what kind of understanding, a better understanding we can gain together of this topic. And as I'm sure you know, we'll be respectful. I'm sure I've responded to your posts before, and you kind of know what to expect from me. Reply requirements for the due dates and participation requirements for this course. You must submit the one main post, 200 words, 2 APA citations. So really you got to cite two things. You got to go in there and find something that you're going to cite, and then find something else that you're going to cite and include them, all right? And reference, as well as 2 follow-up posts, obviously 50 words that you and I will work out. Responses can be addressed in both your initial thread, other threads, but must be your own words, no copying, pasting. You can, if you want, you can cite somebody from one of these posts. You can use a statement by somebody in your post as long as you reference it, okay? I don't want you to use the entire post of somebody else, but you may use somebody's statement and reference it, okay? There you can go to Shark for an example of an APA formatted discussion post. So if you want to go take a look at what that's like, go do that there, okay? And again, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I've put in here an example of my own work. This was an example of one of my weeks up in my course. I just showed you my courses. This is one of the weeks that I put in. Now, in this particular case, I didn't cite I didn't do any referencing to any articles. I think I only did one referencing to one article. Most of my referencing came from a questionnaire that I provided and an interview I did with John Carino. So you'll see that there's a number of areas where John Carino is speaking directly within that assignment. But the rest of it is me discussing what's going on. But you'll see when you get there what I'm talking about. There's John Carino's talking, and then there's me talking in this particular assignment. Okay? All right, so let's see. What else do I need to do here? Okay, so basically, let's get back to where we're going to go here. All right, so we're going to do two things. we're going to take a look at some advertising strategies first, and then we're going to take a look at some advertising methods, okay? So here's my first one, and you have this. This is what I'm supplying you with. An advertising strategy is a plan to reach and persuade a customer to buy a product or a service. Effective product assessment, market definition, media analysis, and budgetary choices result in an optimum plan. Never the perfect plan, because resources are always limited. Essentially what it's saying is, even though your resources are always going to be limited, it's up to you to find the most effective use of the limited resources that you have available to you. That's why it's really critical to understand what you can spend and where you can go to spend that money and get the most bang for your buck. I think you'll probably find that most of the time, you'll find that internet marketing will help you quite a bit. But again, you never know. So anyway, let's take a look at some common advertising strategies first. I opened it. Let's see. There we go. Okay, recognizing common advertising strategies. All right. Things to consider when viewing an advertisement. What is the brand name or product? Who is the target audience? What are the significant visual images? What catchy words or slogans are being used? What needs or desires are being targeted? What fears are being suggested? Are any stereotypes being presented? What advertising techniques are being used? What is the underlying message of the ad? What is your personal reaction? So these are some of the things that you can consider and you can think about. Advertisers use a variety of advertising techniques and strategies to get their consumer to buy their products. This is something that you'll find common, that most often they're not just one particular technique being employed, but there are a number of techniques being employed that springboard from, back and forth from one to another to keep the interest, to pique the interest of the marketer, the consumer. And again, don't forget, this is all being done for a particular product. And you can't just look at one product and compare it to another. Every product has its own unique features and benefits. And there are so many different types of products out there that you really just can't say that, well, I'm going to do this. You have to think about your strategies based on the product or the service. It's very important that you do that. Emotional needs or emotional appeals. Needs. Successful advertisements appeal to the emotional needs of the audience using a promise that the product being advertised can satisfy an emotional need, such as the need for acceptance, belonging to the group, the need for security, the need for change, variety and excitement, the need to be attractive, the need for self-discipline. What you have to understand here is that these are not beat you over the head appeals. I mean, they don't just come right into your face and it's like somebody squishing a pie in your face. I mean, these are subtle. They're subtly applied, but they're there and they're being used. And notice that there are emotional needs such as acceptance, security, change, attractive, self-acceptance. There are different ones, and they are grouped together and used based on the product or the service. Advertisers associate their products with luxury, wealth, fame, beauty, family, fitness, happiness, etc. And don't forget that they don't just do it orally. They don't do it with the words that they speak. It can be the look of the image, the graphics that they use. There's more than one way that you can associate a product with luxury, visually as well as with the word. There is a suggestion that by using their product, some of these associations will wear off onto the consumer. Well, that's essentially why some of these people actually buy this product, because they want to be associated with that particular product, thinking that others will see them in a particular light. Emotional appeals, fears. Advertisers also make use of the oldest persuasion method, fear. They suggest that terrible things can happen to a consumer if you don't use their product. Hard to believe, but again, this is not applied in a punch you right in the nose kind of way. There are subtle ways that this is done, and I'm sure if you really stop and think about it, you probably will be able to figure out a place where you might have seen this employed. If not, these are things that you could start looking for and understanding better by watching them and how they're applied. As consumers, some of our common fears include being unattractive. Very true. Being rejected, being ridiculed, being unsafe, or in danger. Well, all these are, and at one time or another, I'm sure everybody has felt unattractive. Everybody has felt rejected. Everybody has been ridiculed or is afraid of being ridiculed. I mean, even myself, being unsafe or in danger. You know, I mean, these things happen in real life, and what these people do with these emotional appeals for fear is they figure out a way to create an environment within the ad itself that will help the person to remember or to associate with these feelings. Look at the ads for unwanted hair, body odor, dandruff, and weight. While they often use humor with these, the feeling of unattractiveness, of ridicule, is still there. You know, dandruff or weight. Society has been made to feel that these things are not acceptable. However, fear can also be used to prevent drinking and driving, drug taking, etc. Fear works best if it does not scare too much. All these things are applied subtly, and they're applied to different levels, and they're applied with things such as humor, or with association. There's all sorts of ways that you can, you know, link something to something else to make these methods work. Common advertising strategies. Ideal kids and family. Are you cool enough? Amazing toys. Weasel words. Put downs. Heartstrings. Cute celebrities. Fun, family fun. Facts and figures, star power, bandwagon, excitement, and scale. All of these strategies, and there are actual explanations we'll get into a little later on about each and every one of these things. There might even be in here. You might even see some of them occur in here. Okay, here, ideal kids and families. The kids in commercials are often a little older and a little more perfect than the target audience of the ad. They are, in other words, role models for what the advertisers wants the children in the target audience to think they want to be like. First of all, you got to understand they have to know about the psychology of the target audience. What is the target audience thinking generally? And if that works, this is why they would do it. If they feel that the target audience isn't going to go for this sort of thing, this will not be employed. So really, research is a very big part of this whole thing, the understanding of what is going to work in particular situations. Well, role models for what the target audience think they want to be. A commercial that is targeting 8-year-olds, for instance, will show 11 or 12-year-old models playing with an 8-year-old's toy. You know, if that's what they determine will work. Again, though, you know, that's research goes into this. Believe me, they do not do this just arbitrarily. This is all researched out. A lot of money is spent on doing this research and understanding what these particular role models are going to do for their target audience. Will they work? Will they not work? If they determine that they will not work, they are simply not going to do it. Ideal families are all attractive and pleasant looking, and everyone seems to get along. Ideal kids and families represent the type of people that kids watching the ad would like themselves or their families to be. And again, you know, this is something that is basically studied. It is basically looked at. They do a determination of whether this is going to work or not. But as a rule, generally, people do like to think that they're attractive and pleasant. Here are some imagery. Okay, so we just have some pictures here, basically, of some children doing some things. This girl, actually, I see, if you think about it, this girl looks like she just might be a little bit older than need be for that particular seat. Going back to what they were saying before, she could probably get away with sitting with just the seat belt, the shoulder belt, as opposed to the riding seat. These kids, I think, are maybe, well, they're probably close to range that would still be interested in this, but I think they're on the high end of that range there, you know. So are you cool enough? Advertisers try to convince you that if you don't use their products, then you aren't good enough. That's a common one. That's something that, and again, just remember, these are not like a hammer that's pounding into your brain. These are subtle things that occur within the advertisements. Maybe you won't be accepted or have the right friends. Maybe you won't fit in. Sometimes they will show something uncool, trying to show someone uncool trying a product, and then suddenly they become hip looking and do cool things. So basically it can change a person. See, again, there's subtle ways that they can do it. There's an emphasis on status and keeping up with the Joneses. Let's see what the example tells us here. I don't know. There you go, Joe Cool. There he is. There's the cool camel. Live like Bond. Okay. And here's going from flabby to fabulous. And they did a little bit of work so that this guy looks very much like that guy. Okay, amazing toys. Many toy commercials show their toys in life like fashion, doing incredible things. Airplanes do loop-de-loops and cars do wheelies. Dolls cry, spring-loaded missiles hit gorillas dead in the chest. This would be fine if the toys really did these things. This is a great one. This is absolutely a great one. I cannot tell you the number of times I have seen commercials for things that simply don't end up looking like this. I'll give you another really, really good example. Take a look at some of the Burger King. Take a look at some of the McDonald's. Take a look at some of the burgers that they show. And then go to the store and buy, or go to the McDonald's or go to the Burger King and buy the same burger. It doesn't really look like what's on the television at all. And I mean, seriously, it don't. So, I mean, this is something that very good one, amazing toys. This one is great. Let's see what kind of examples they show us here. This ought to be interesting. Yeah, okay, so here you've got this crazy thing going on here. Now, what I believe this does do is I believe it does send out a loop of smoke, which actually is pretty cool. But you see how they've added this little bit of something in there. And then, of course, the erupting, sparkling, fizzing fun. Well, I really don't think that this is quite as dynamic as it say it is. It's kind of a mess. It's one of those volcano makers is what it is. And then this baby, I don't know about the baby. The baby doesn't do anything. So, I mean, in my particular opinion, that photo is probably fairly accurate for what that baby is going to do and what it's going to be like. So I'm not sure that this one kind of falls short, I think. Weasel words. By law, advertisers have to tell the truth, but sometimes they use words that can mislead viewers. Well, I have to tell you something. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is probably like about an 8 as far as a common thing that occurs. They do this a lot, and they have gotten to the point where they are really good about it, really good with it. And some of these places even have legal departments where they actually work with the creative people to come up with these weasel words and these statements that they can put in that sort of twist and turn the reality and the truth into something that is not exactly truth, and yet not something that they can be chased down and sued for. Because I tell you, these guys can lose lots of money if they get busted for doing things like this. Look for words in commercials like part of, the taste of, natural, new, better tasting, because we care. There are all hundreds of deceptive phrases. I probably got examples to look at here. There you go. Cordial, the finest quality. Okay. Free money. Lucky brand. What does it say? New and improved. Lucky brand. You know, I mean, is it really new and improved? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it probably has been new and improved, but I very seriously doubt that most of these brands actually do improve. I mean, you can make something, maybe refine something slightly, but they're going to do the same thing. It's not going to radically change it. Put downs. This is when an ad puts down the competition's product to make its product seem better. See some examples of this. And by the way, this is a really pretty good site. All right, so here's the reason you'd choose a wireless company. It's the network. So there's that guy who was with one network, and now he's with another network. I don't know what happens with put downs. Okay, there's the put down. Yeah, it goes back to the put down. I'm a PC, I'm a Mac. Oh, I remember this. I don't know whether I remember seeing him in a wheelchair like this, but I remember this where something happens to this guy and he's a PC and he's standing cool and he's a Mac. Okay, so there's your put down. Those are good examples. Both of them examples that I clearly remember. And as I say, this guy now is no longer with one wireless company. He's with another wireless company. And what he's doing essentially is he's slandering, and I won't go so far as to say slandering. He's coming pretty close to slandering the other company. He's basically saying, hey, I used to be with that company. They're no good. Now I'm with these people. That's what he's saying. And this is what I'm saying. These people are clever. Very clever with what they do. You have to be clever too. Right, heartstrings. Commercials often create an emotional mood that draws you into the advertisement and makes you feel good. McDonald's commercials featuring father and daughter eating out together, or the AT&T reach out and touch someone ads are good examples. We are more attracted by products that make us feel good. So one of the things that they do very often are come up with little scenarios that their whole goal is to make you feel good about something, hoping that that moment of feeling good is enough to make you remember them when it's time to go in and make that all-important purchase. Most people love dogs. Not everybody likes dogs. So obviously, if you don't like dogs, that's not going to work for you. But if you like dogs, and I do like dogs, are you feeding me contaminated food? I'm not going to feed my dog contaminated food. If I, for one moment, thought my dog was getting bad food, I would not be buying that food. So that's what I would think about that. And of course, there's a very cute kitten. I also like cats very much. So, I mean, I look at that and I'm like, I'll remember that. Very cute, Kitten Chow, you know. Of course, again, my cat, the one that I have, has just died recently. He wasn't even a kitten, so it wouldn't apply to me very much. Start college fund, revise will, undo global warming. There you go, undo it. Global warming. So you look at this and you're saying to yourself, what's going on here? Okay, until you look down the bottom and you see it's for global warming. So really what they're doing is they're making you feel somewhat guilty. And that is, again, subtle. I mean, but this is not so subtle with the little baby. Personalities. Now, let me stop for a moment with that, because to be honest with you, what we just saw with that global warming, the people that are responsible for the product or the service are the ones that determine the level of, how would I put it, the level of good or bad they put into what they do. Okay, I mean, they can, some of these, like, I'll give you examples, is the people that don't eat animals. I'm trying to think of their names. I can't think of their names now. But anyway, they're the type of people that will beat you right over the head. Okay, global warming people, it would seem to me, would be the type of people that would beat you right over the head. They come out and be very, very blatant with what they say. You know, they come up with a clever idea, but it is a tough one. You look at it and you're like, you know, really, it's a tough one, you know. So subtlety is something that, look at all these pictures. Look at this. I mean, they're adorable. You can see what their game is. So cute celebrities, all right? And, you know, celebrities don't have to be cute. Celebrities could be homely. I don't know whether you remember or not, but there's been many of them. There's this one, what is the product? Can't even remember the product, but there's a couple of ones that I've seen recently where they use celebrities that are anything but cute. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sell pizza. Spud McKenzie smells beer. Now, these are not celebrities like you would think it, like Michael Jordan or, you know, I'm trying to think of a girl. I can't, for some reason, think of a girl. But like Spuds McKenzie isn't really a celebrity. What he is he's a brand identifier. That's what he really is. The Ninja Turtles, they are cartoon celebrities. They are part of a program that is a cartoon program that has nothing to do with pizza. Okay? That's the major difference, is what I'm trying to tell you. Spuds McKenzie was something that was whipped up by Budweiser, I believe, and I'm pretty sure it was Budweiser did Spuds McKenzie, and he sells beer. That's all he does. Now, after that, other people might have used him for something because he was so clever and they wanted tie-in with that particular beer, or the beer came up with a clever idea to employ him somewhere. But that he is a celebrity that was created by a particular company to sell a particular beer, whereas Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have nothing to do with any products. They basically are a brand that is a cartoon-based brand. They're cartoon-based characters, and they are employed by a company that has nothing to do with them to sell a particular product. In this case, you're talking about pizza. Joe Cool, Camel, that's another one now. Joe Cool, I mean, other than the fact that I'm sure you've heard Joe Cool before. I heard it when I was a teenager. They would use the term Joe Cool. But Joe Cool is the Camel who sells cigarettes. Well, that was developed by Camel cigarettes. I'm pretty sure it was Camel. Yeah, and I mean, that's really, and I don't even think they use him anymore, but that's something that they developed. It's a product character, a product identifier, okay? It's part of an overall product campaign, coming up with a clever character that they use in a comic way. Spuds McKenzie was a comic character. It was comedy involved in this. Tony the Tiger, there's another one that goes back, geez, I mean, that one goes back probably as far back as either the early 60s or the 50s. It might even go back to the 50s. I just don't exactly remember the timeline on it, but that's what the internet's for. If you want to look that up, you could look it up and see. But Tony the Tiger has been around for a very long time. The Nestle's Quick Bunny, yeah, I think he's been around for a while too, probably from the 60s, I would think. You know, there's the Jolly Green Giant. But these characters, you know, Tony the Tiger is a celebrity that was developed by the company, the cereal company. The Quick Bunny, the Nestle Bunny is Nestle's chocolate. They're Nestle's. That's who developed these. All of them are helping the children to identify the product either now or for the future. Well, guess what? When they say now or for the future, that means that since these have been around since the 60s, all of us, I mean, I'm 65 years old, I know every one of these characters for different reasons. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for instance. My son loved them. So I know what they are. Spuds McKenzie. I'm not a big Budweiser beer drinker, but I know who he is. I've seen him, and I've seen them make comic things about him, make funny things, including him. Joe Cool, I've seen Joe Cool many, many times. Tony the Tiger, I've seen it on television many times. The Nestle's Quick Bunny, I don't remember it quite as well. I've seen him, but I can't think of too many times that I've seen him other than print ads. So anyway, let's see what kind of examples they come up with here. Okay, so we got Mario and Ronald McDonald. There's the Trix Bunny. I mean, I remember these. Pillsbury Doughboy. I remember this one. Every one of these things. But keep in mind that every single one. Now, Mario, for instance, Mario really has nothing to do with McDonald's. Mario is something that McDonald's wanted to use to entice children who liked that game. This, on the other hand, Ronald McDonald's, came from McDonald's. He's a clown, obviously, but that he's a particular clown with a particular name and a particular look, and that was developed for the company. So you have these identifiers, these people who are celebrities. Either they are a celebrity like Michael Jordan, okay, he's a celebrity, and they used him quite tremendously on clothing and shoe wear. And he's a basketball player, had nothing to do with except that he was a tremendous athlete that everybody would want to be. So now, of course, if you want to be Michael Jordan, and you can be Michael Jordan by wearing Michael Jordan shoes, that's what you're going to do, and that's why they're using him. Whereas Ronald McDonald is something that they wanted to come up with to give them a character. One advertisement agency, an advertising creative person at some point came up with the Trix Rabbit. And it's the same with the Pillsbury Doughboy for the Pillsbury Company. An advertising agency or an advertising executive, a creative director, whatever, came up with the concept of the Pillsbury Doughboy. So that's what's going on here. Family fun. This is something the whole family can do together. Or is it something mom will be glad to buy for you? Many commercials show parents enjoying their children's fun as if the product will bring more family togetherness. That's always a good one. And that one, I think, is more targeted towards the parent. I could be wrong, but it would seem to me that, if they could convince the parent to buy something, then they're the ones that have the money for the most part. I'm not saying that kids don't have some money and can buy things on their own, but very often, who's doing the real buying in the family? It's usually the mother, sometimes the father. So a lot of these commercials are, trying to come up with things that the parents are going to see. Maybe the children are asking about a particular product, and then the parent sees something and they get a positive feeling from what they see. And then, of course, they're going to, well, okay, you know what? I'm going to give in and I'm going to let my kid have that particular thing, So here we go. Family Fun Fitness, not one of your better examples, but there's an example of it. And here's another one, Motorola. This is an old ad. Look at that. This is probably from the 50s. That looks like it's about from the 50s or the early 60s. Again, as I said, I don't exactly know because I don't have a date on a particular thing, but it is definitely, I'm saying 50s. I'm going to say late 50s in there. It's amazing. By the way, one of the courses I had was advertising art through the entire 20th century, and actually going back into the late 1800s, from around 1875 up until today. And it was I had a ball with that. I mean, looking at all the different types of advertising, amazing. I actually enjoyed that course so much. It was incredible. It was 9 weeks of it too. So that made it even better because I actually had to go through 9 weeks, and I had to cover the entire from 1875 up until the present day. And then I had to come up with some really incredibly complex presentation where I had to do a timeline, and it had to be an animated timeline. And I don't know whether you're interested in that or not, but if you since I had you last mod, you probably, Kimberly, have access to my website, not my website, but my YouTube site, and it's up on my YouTube site if you care to look at it. Facts and figures. Advertisers use facts and statistics to enhance a product's credibility. This is one that I definitely think you consider because this is a very common one. Again, I have no idea what you're going to ultimately choose, what particular type of approach you're going to come up with when you develop your creative stuff. But this one is a good one. Facts and figures, facts and statistics. But you have to make sure if you do this, you have to make sure that your facts and your statistics are honest and representative. I mean, you can't be deceiving people, because once they find out, it will so thoroughly damage your product that you may not recover from it. And you have to check statistics very carefully, because you have products that you're competing with. You have to make sure that whatever facts and statistics you have are going to prove to be of a higher caliber than your competitors. If it turns out that your facts and statistics fall short of your competitors, it's going to hurt your credibility. People are going to just basically ignore it. Or if they discover it, they realize what they're looking at, they're going to say, well, why would I buy this one? I can go over to that one and it's better. So, again, very popular one to use. Be honest and be thorough. Make sure you check everything out if you do this. So from 4 packs a day to 0 in 4 hours. Again, I don't know. I have to read the whole thing, but from 4 packs a day to 0 in 4 hours, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. Okay, I live with somebody who smokes, and they're going to have to literally put them in their grave to go from 4 packs to 0 in 4 hours. My wife would have to be dead. That's the only way that she'd go from 4 packs a day to 0 in an hour. I don't know what they're selling here, but I can't even imagine that it would happen. 8 out of 10 children don't use booster seats. Well, again, this is something that you can go in and you can find the data on that and find out whether it's true. I don't know what date this thing goes back to, but it might even be different. The numbers might be different today. I don't know how old it is. It could be relatively new. It could be kind of older. What do we got down here? Gold. Gold has risen over 240% since 2000 with the sliding dollar. If poised to go, okay, so you see, it's telling you that it has risen over 240% since 2000. If they did their research and that is correct, and with the sliding dollar, it is poised to go even higher. There's your words. Remember they were talking about words a few ways back? What they're saying here is it's poised to even go higher. What they're not saying is there are circumstances which would cause the price of gold to tumble. They don't talk about that. They just simply say it's poised to go higher. They're assuming that by saying that, you're going to say, well, I got some extra money here. Maybe I should put it in gold. See, this is what I'm saying. This is where you look at this and there's subtle things. How much gold is in your portfolio? Learn everything you need to know about gold investing, less than 30 minutes with Swiss America. Okay, again, as I say, keep in mind, there's your fact, and that fact is provable. And I'm sure, I have no doubt that they didn't do the research and that they have that information there. This is, and with this sliding dollar, it is poised to go even higher. This is the poison right here. This is the poison. That is not a truth. It is an assumption, okay? There's no way that they could prove that it's going to go higher, and that's why they're saying it is poised to go even higher. What they are not saying is at the same time it could go down. Star power. Sports heroes. Okay, so here we go. This is a little bit different now than what we were looking at before. Sports heroes, movie stars, teenage heartthrobs. Tell a perfect one. Sports heroes. What's his name? The basketball player. I just said his name. Michael Jordan. Heartthrobs tell our children what to eat and what to wear. Children listen, not realizing that the star is paid for the endorsement. I got to tell you, they say children listen. Sports hero Michael Jordan, I've seen men up to the adult age in their 30s wearing all Michael Jordan stuff. And I've seen basketball players of all kinds wearing Michael Jordan shoes. They're collectible. So, I mean, it's not just children. I mean, this is something that literally goes decades in every direction. I mean, there's a certain point where, a child isn't going to understand this. And there's a certain point where you get so old where you're like, who cares anymore? Okay, but this is much wider than children. That's what I'm trying to say. And it is something to understand that the real person who benefits from this is the star, because the star does very little other than just allow his name to be associated with a particular product. And if the star has any brains at all, or if the star is working with a promoter or a manager who has brains and is able to get connected to a really good product, then the star is going to be golden. The star hooks on to somebody that's got a schlubby product, he's going to be short-lived. Here we go. Primal Instinct. Who's that? I don't even know who they're talking about there. I can't see it. And there's, what's her name? What's her name? Sure, Hotel. What's her name? Can't think of her name. Eating a hamburger. You know, I don't know. That one, I've seen this one many times. Oh, there's Michael Jordan. I've seen this one many times. I can never figure it out. You know, why would anybody care to have a hot dog because she has this hot dog? I mean, I'd be the one, or hamburger. I'd be the one to buy a hamburger too. And I can't see myself buying that particular hamburger because it has anything to do with her. It doesn't matter to me, you know. Michael Jordan, there's Michael Jordan, hysterical. But there he is. And this guy is, you know, he's gold. He's made all sorts of millions of dollars for people, just by being himself, really. And this is, I guess it's Beyonce, is it? Yeah, Beyonce. I don't want to, she's on Samsung. Okay, so Samsung, it makes sense too because it's music and whatnot. So anyway, there are some of the stars, much different than the characters. I mean, while let me go back. Hold on. Yeah, while she isn't really anything more than just a celebrity that is kind of what would you call it? She's kind of controversial. You know what I mean? She doesn't really do very much. She just basically, you know, tra-la-las around and creates a lot of publicity and does all kinds of crazy things. And as a matter of fact, you haven't heard very much of her lately. But I wouldn't consider her to be a tremendous star. She's more or less just somebody that people know and maybe feel like, wow, I'd like to be like that, you know? I mean, I don't think you wouldn't have too many brains if you want to be like her. I mean, she has a lot of money, and I'm sure everybody and their brother would like to have a lot of money, but, you know, she didn't do anything for the money. Although I understand now that she makes money because she become this personality from the craziness that she's been in. Bandwagon. Join the crowd. Don't be left out. Everybody is buying this product. Why aren't you? This is something that you find an awful lot. One of the things you find this used tremendously with and working tremendously with are the cell phones. I mean, people literally are falling all over themselves to get the latest cell phone from, say, Mac or not, from Apple. So, you know, there's a classic example of this. People, and they'll spend huge money, and right after they spend huge money, within a year they're out spending a huge money to buy the next one, you know? And another thing that's like this, and it's always been like this, are cars. Think about it. Every year, a whole new group of cars come out. Every year. And sometimes the cars don't really look any different, but they're just, one is a 2017 and one's a 2016. You know what I mean? And this, as a matter of fact, I believe that in 2016, they're selling 2017s. So when 2017 hits, they're selling 2018s. I mean, there's a classic example of some of the madness that goes with Bandwagon, you know. Let's see what kind of examples they show. Classic potato chips. Americans prefer the taste of Lay's. Well, I mean, I suppose it's not the most, I wouldn't think that that's probably the best example of this. American Kitchen, you know, again, this is a very old ad. I don't know that that's the best example either. Everybody's doing it. Are you recycle? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure any of these are, in my opinion, great examples of Bandwagon. Like I told you, you know, I'm thinking more along the lines of showing a picture of a Macintosh or, you know, an Apple, whatever their phone's called. That's a great example of that. And maybe cars, because that's another great example of it. Excitement. Watch the expressions on their faces. Never a dull moment, never boring. This toy is the most fun since fried bananas, the boy seems to say. One bit of a snack food and you're surfing in California or soaring on your skateboard. Excitement. Well, now, you know, they can use excitement in many ways. I mean, you can create very expressive visuals that capture people's imaginations or their fantasies. And, you know, they talk specifically about a toy, but this can be food, this can be this can be applied many different ways. I don't know what kind of good examples that they have, but excitement is a pretty good one, a pretty common one too. All right, so you got this ocean shot there. They're actually doing selfies, not bad. You know, here they're at the pool. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. That's kind of exciting. And I can see a lot of people saying, wow, I'd like to be there doing that, you know. And again, this is something for soccer. And you notice I got two things for soccer, you know. And here again, this guy is, you know, out jumping everybody. And so, yeah, okay. So there's some exciting things. You know, I'm sure there are even better examples than that. Really, the thing is that, you know, we're going by this particular slide that somebody prepared. What I would say is that you and I would probably go out and pick one or two of these and go and find examples, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we might come up with better examples than this. So scale. It's when an advertiser makes product look bigger or smaller than it actually is. Yeah, they do this in very sneaky or very strange ways. You know, the way that they do this is they use backgrounds, and very often they use a background which is basically just a very single background, which has basically a one color. I'm not saying it's the only way to do it, but this is one way that they do it, where they'll take something and they'll put it against a very stark, I'm not saying it's an ugly background, but it's very plain background, and put center focus on the particular product, and they'll try to get the product, if possible, to be natural size, the scale that it is the actual size of. Jamie, I'm in class. Here, let's see what kind of examples they can show us here. All right, so yeah, this is kind of what I'm talking about. This is kind of what I'm talking about too. But again, I've seen much better examples than this. This is really pretty good, because what they've done here is they put it against a stark background, black. They do have a title, no mixing required, and then they show Heineken. They don't show the whole bottle, but what they do is they take a significant part of the bottle, which includes most of the labeling, which I think many people by now who would be drinking would know of this particular product, and they probably make it large. And I'm pretty sure that because of the size that this appears to be in here, I would imagine that it is way beyond life size. I mean, it's much bigger than it really is in life size. This is a pretty good one. This one is actually a pretty good one too, but it's not one that I'm particularly drawn to. Although I mean, you know, here she is, she's graduation day and she's crashed through the windshield of her car, and in this case it's through the actual frame of the picture. So cleverly done, but this one I particularly like. This one, so this one's actually pretty cool, because what they've done here is they've taken a garment with a couple of buttons and they've sort of played around with it until they make it sort of suggest a leopard. It's actually a very cool one, but it's something that you have to look at for a moment. You know what I mean? You have to sit there and check it out and look at it, and it takes a moment for you to get it. But this is what I'm talking about. This is a really classic example of this, where something is basically centered focus. And actually, here's the product right there. This is the visual that they create, but there's your product right there. Product's there, and there's a little tagline, and then there's really a clever graphic that they come up with. This is a very nice graphic, by the way. And this is a very, let's go back, scale, okay? This is one that you probably should really consider, because it is something that, depending upon what you're working with, this is one that really you can play with it and come up with some very creative stuff, just as you see here, and especially here. Let's see if you can recognize some advertising strategies. Let's see if we can. So what do we got here? Brand name, this product is Pellegrino bottled water. This has got to be family oriented. There's your Pellegrino bottle. And this is also scale in a way too, because what you got is you got this whole area which shows a picture of a group of people, and then here's your product sitting over here. Very much like what you were looking at when you were looking at the leopard, the standard 99 cent. So here again, what you're looking at is looking at what they are saying is their standard chicken sandwich. And then there is your Wendy's sandwich. Here again, you know, this is kind of like a scale deal. Right here, you got this, you know, Head and Shoulders. It's probably, depending upon the size of the page, the size of the ad, the size of the periodical that it's in, that would probably be close to life size for the product. Now, it certainly wouldn't be life size if it were on a poster that's on the side of a subway or something, but that right there is a really good example of scale. And again, it's you see the simple background. It's just basically a wave, and this is kind of like, oh, it's sort of disappearing into the wave, but it's sort of sitting there straight up. First of all, if this were part of the wave, it wouldn't be sitting straight up. The wave would be riding, he would be riding along with the wave. But you see what they're doing is they're playing this thing and giving it the freshness of that water. Very cool picture. Very cool image. And then here we got Mickey Mouse and you know, this little girl. Nice character, great character. Not well, in this particular case, even though he is a cartoon character, he is basically a star, you know, a person who's a spokesperson for it. But then, of course, it is Disney's California. And this one here, fabulous Hawaiian estates, millions of gamers, exotic cars and bikes, fast new life, all at your fingertips. Grab life by the horns, need we say more? Yeah. So there's all these different ones in here. All right. Well, anyway, let's go back to week one discussion. Let's take a look at most effective advertising strategies. We also have 7 types of advertising strategies every copywriter should know. Now, I picked this one because this one shows you some examples which you can go after. And again, I have this in there for you. 7 types of ad strategies every copywriter should know. Let's look at that next. But let's look at the most effective advertising strategies. All right, let's see what that's all about. Okay, so here we go. Now, if you wanted to, this could be something that you could use because in this particular case, you could reference it, Advertising Strategy, the Most Effective Advertising Strategies by Florence Ng, N-G, and this is 2014, okay? And it's from a blog. So this, you could utilize this if you wanted to, all right? So I'm not ashamed to admit that I still love McDonald's Happy Meals, even my late 20s, especially blah, 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 blah. You know, there's no doubt that most of us have fallen victim to an advertising strategy from a company or business that has led us to purchase their goods or service. Advertising strategies are essential campaigns and tools that can determine if a business will succeed or fail in their sales. So this is good because this tells you specifically, you know, what you're going to be working on and how important it is. It's very important for you to think about what you want to do with the particular campaign that you're going to build for the company that you're going to be working your strategy for. So the top advertising strategies: appeal to emotion. When a company is able to appeal to the emotional needs of their audiences, they genuinely will issue a promise that the product will serve a certain function or purpose. This function or purpose can satisfy the person's emotional needs in the following area: belonging to a certain group or feeling accepted, the promise of feeling secure, the promise of feeling attractive, the promise of acceptance. Many advertisers will associate their problems with things that people want out of life, such as luxury, wealth, fame, beauty, love, and family. They ensure that by using their product, they will be able to fulfill those areas of their lives. Now, the important thing to understand is that these are your top advertising strategies. They don't work in every single instance. They are being presented to you as something that you can draw upon when you go to build your strategy for your company. This you can come back to, and you can look at your company and say, which one of these strategies, or which ones of these strategies, more than one meaning, can I employ, and how can I employ them to market my product or my service? That's what's most important about it. Fear. Fear is a very common persuasion method for people. A company or business that will suggest that if you do not buy their product or service, certain terrible things can or will happen to you. Companies note that people fear the following things: being unattractive, rejected, teased, or feeling unsafe. There are plenty of products that promise to get rid of things such as body odor, fat, or unwanted hair. All these things can help a person feel more attractive or accepted. So, but is that the only way that you can employ fear? No. It's up to the creative individual to think, if we're going to employ fear, why? Why are we doing it? What's the point in our particular context for applying fear? And how can we do it? That's the things that you do. And to be totally honest with you, when you sit down and start working on your creative plan for your company, you need to discuss with yourself these particular types of emotional things, or these ideals. You need to think about them all, and you need to think which ones will apply, and then try to work your magic, so to speak, around them. The ideal family in commercials or on billboards, generally the family you will see will be full of attractive people who appear to be getting along with each other perfectly. Popular advertising a strategy to show an ideal family in the hopes that the people will believe that certain products or service will give them the ideal family as well. A lot of times you'll find that places where people go will use this particular ploy, the ideal family. You'll see a lot of times at like resorts and vacation type places, you always see a family, and they always look great, and they always look like they're having really good fun, and everybody's fit, and that's basically what they're doing. They're talking about the ideal family, and this is the place to go. And even if you're not so ideal, you look at that place and say, wow, man, that's where I want to go, Cool factor. We all want to be cool, and advertisers know this. Companies will try to convince you that if you don't use their product, you simply will lose cool points or not have a cool factor. For instance, maybe you will not fit in, you will not have friends, or you will not be accepted. Advertisements always show people who appear hip and cool doing hip and cool things. So really, you could come up with a character, and this they've done, where they've come up with a character that's cool. Spuds MacKenzie's a good example of that. For a while, he was very cool, and they had him doing really cool things. And of course, he was a Bud drinker. So, you're now saying, oh, I want to drink Bud because Spud MacKenzie's cool, And I like Bud anyway, So, but that's what it really comes down to. And really think about these all amazing toys. When you were growing up, you probably remember toy commercials. Some of this stuff you'll remember from the last site we were on. I mean, they basically, covered this, but here they're just covering it, giving you a little bit more insight into it. When you were growing up, you probably remember toy commercials with toys doing things that they might not exactly be able to do. Many companies display their toys doing incredible things that the product is not actually capable of. For instance, cars doing wheelies, dolls crying or moving by themselves, airplanes doing loops, and whirls in the air. Very common. I mean, I remember as a young boy going into stores, and even if I went into stores by myself, if I went into, say, a good example would be a model shop. I would go into a model shop, and they would have models of planes or models of cars, and you would look at the models of the car, and you would look at the models of the plane, and the model of the plane looked beautiful, and there was actually a pilot inside of it, and it was flying. Or if you looked and you saw a car, the car was burning rubber down a raceway or doing a wheelie. And these are things that it's a model. When you open it up, it's not that. It's a model. It's a bunch of parts that you have to sit there and you have to put together. And after you put the whole thing together, unless you're some kind of professional model maker, which most of us were not at the time, our models ended up looking nothing like what they looked like on the cover. Now, of course, there were some people that continued to make models. They kept fighting that good battle till they got to the point where they were actually able to make the models look pretty darn amazing. I've seen some people's models that were just amazing, but I never got very far with it myself. And it was something that I really wasn't all that much into. I was only into it because some of my friends were into it for a period of time. But that's a really good example of that. Weasel words. This is what I was talking to you about before when we're talking about that gold advertisement. You've got to really think about what they're telling you, and are they trying to ply you with weasel words in some way? If you really think about it logically, I'm not saying everybody will not get caught by them, because there will always be some that will get caught. But if you really think about it carefully, and if you look at what you're doing, you'll spot weasel words. They tend to jump out at you as being, and I won't say that they're not truthful, but they're sort of like incomplete. There's an incompleteness to them, and you sort of think to yourself, well, this could mean that. This could mean that this is a good thing. So yeah, maybe I should do it because but it doesn't guarantee. It can't guarantee. And as a matter of fact, it should, if it was being really truthful, come out and say, well, on the other hand, there's always the possibility that, you could lose something as opposed to gain. But that very often they don't do. So weasel words are ones that you have to be aware of. I don't know, I guess it would be, I'm going to say this. I'm going to be very interested, Kimberly, to see what you do and which ones you use and how you use them. Okay, because that's kind of where the fun of this whole thing comes into play. How do you take the elements that we're going to be covering and put together something that is going to be used for the marketing of whatever product or service or company that you choose to work with? That's kind of where the fun comes in on this. And it is kind of fun, really. For instance, words such as natural, new, part of, or because, we care. Yeah, they're descriptive, deceptive words and phrases used in advertising. One thing I will say, got to be extremely careful when you're being deceptive in advertising. If you go too far with it and it becomes, if it becomes known to the public, you could either find yourself in a tremendous lawsuit at the worst case scenario. The best case scenario, which is not really very good, your product could be decimated. It could decimate your product. People could literally just walk away from your product. And so, again, I don't know that it's really worth the effort. Doesn't mean people don't use them. Put down in advertising, if a company is not sure how to make their product stand out, they will resort to putting down some of their competition or competitor to try to make themselves look better. Again, this is something that I recommend you use with caution. I'm not very big on doing this, although again, these are some of the strategies. These are some of the major strategies that are being used. A lot of times what they'll do is they won't literally come out and name their competitor, but they'll create a scenario in which it becomes extremely obvious that a particular competitor is who they're talking about. That's how they would do that. In other words, you wouldn't come out and say, like I'm Lucky Strike cigarettes, and you're going to die if you smoke Camels or Cools. They'll do it. They'll say something else. They'll work it another way. They won't mention, literally, they won't mention the competition. They'll basically work around it and create just enough of a mental association to make you understand who they're talking about. The next one is probably a very good one, heartstrings. It's an advertising strategy similar to appeal to emotion. Now, when a company use separate forms of media to create an emotional mood to draw you into and make you feel good. For example, cute pictures of children or babies or cute little animals can pull on anyone's heartstrings and appeal to their emotion. A lot of times what they're trying to do is they're trying to present a friendly face. They're trying to say, look, we are so certain that our product is good that we're not going to hard sell you. What we're going to do is we're going to show you something very pleasant and remind you that if you like that pleasant, if you like that kind of a pleasant thing, then you're going to get that same kind of a mood or same sort of lift from the product that we offer you. And if it's done well, if it's done properly, it works. I mean, it's why it's one of the main, types. So cute or cool celebrities, this is what we were talking about before, and again, there are celebrities and then there are celebrities. The celebrities, the real celebrities are celebrities such as, well, who did we look at? We looked at Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is a real celebrity. He's somebody that has nothing to do with any particular product that might be using him. The only way he has anything to do with them is by association. And the only reason there's an association is because he's being paid by the company, okay? Whereas Ronald McDonald is not going to be used for anything really other than McDonald's products. He's not going to be seen anywhere else really because he is a complete fabrication of the McDonald Corporation. They made him up. That's the character, It's the same with Spuds MacKenzie. He's same thing. He's basically made up, So you see, again, they're talking about Toucan Sam, Fruit Loops, and Tony the Tiger, and whatnot. But again, it's just what I was saying. Togetherness. We all want hope. We all want hope for a perfect family. It's an easy advertising strategy for companies that deal with a family product. So what I would say about this is that while this particular one they're saying is an easy advertising strategy for companies that deal with a family product, what I would say is that you should look at every single strategy that you can find in these 3 articles that I'm providing you with. And of course, don't just stop with mine. If you feel like it, go out and find yourself some more. I gave you these 3 because I looked at a bunch of them and I thought these 3 will probably be a good start for her, But the bottom line is think about the strategy. Okay, here it's saying an easy advertising strategy for companies that deal with family products. So what you have to ask yourself is, I got X product here. Out of all the strategies, what would I think would be the best strategy or strategies? Because again, you can employ more than one. What are the strategies or strategy? What one would be the best one for my particular product or service? And again, the key to this is why. You have to think about it. Why? Who is my product for? Will that strategy work, or can I make that strategy work for that particular target audience? Target audience is another thing that I want you to think about when you choose your product and start thinking about how you're going to promote your product. Have to think about who exactly is it that I'm going for? What's the group of people that I'm going for? Who are they? Are they young girls between the age of 11 and 16? Are they young men 18 to 27? Are they females from 45 to 55? I mean, you have to think about that. Is there more than one group to them? Are they young male and females from, say, 15 to 21? You see what I'm saying? You have to think about that. And you have to think about, okay, if I'm going to go after those people, what would the strategy be that would give me the greatest penetration into that particular group? Or can I employ more than one to do the job? And like I say, this can be a lot of fun. It can be difficult and it can be challenging, but it can also be a lot of fun. So I'm just saying, try to enjoy it. facts and figures. Companies also use certain facts and statistics to make a product or a service appear more credible and reliable. You got to be very careful with this. Certain facts and statistics. Make sure that you are being honest and that you're using the facts honestly, and your statistics must be accurate. So again, this is something that you'll have to do probably quite a bit of research to come up with facts and figures on something. Don't just take it lightly, because to be honest with you, if it turned out that your facts and statistics are not accurate, what's going to happen is sooner or later it's going to be made known to the public, and the public will respond in some way, and more than likely it's going to be in a way that you're not going to want. So this is something that is very important. Look, I'm not trying to say that every single one of these strategies aren't important, but some of them are more critical than the others. Some of them you can have a lighter touch with. Some you have to really hammer down the facts on, and this particular one is one. Star power. If you're going to use celebrities, you're going to be spending a lot of money. So the first thing that you're going to think about if you're going to be thinking about adding a celebrity to the mix is it worth it monetarily? Is the product that you're selling going to make enough money to support the amount of money that you're going to need for the celebrity? Now, what I find that they do an awful lot is they will take a celebrity who is known but is not one of the A-listers. They might be a B or a C-list celebrity, somebody that people are going to recognize, but somebody who is not, like, you know, top of the list. And this way, what they can do is they can get that person for a great deal more money, and they can build a little bit of star power for their product at the same time for that particular celebrity. So what happens is, if it works out correctly, this celebrity will become known for his or her association to a particular product, and that celebrity, if it's somebody that people will, and the advertising is compelling enough, the whole thing will work out. The product will grow. The celebrity will become more of a known celebrity, because obviously now the celebrity is being seen repeatedly in advertisements. They do this a lot on television. You'll find these celebrities are on TV. They do a lot of TV ads with these celebrities, because, you know, if you're going to have a celebrity, a lot of times the voices alone aren't strong enough for the celebrity. Some celebrities have very unique voices. Others have voices that if you disassociate them from the image of the celebrity, you might miss who it is, unless you're somebody that's really plugged into that particular celebrity. So you find a lot of these celebrities where there's visuals. So advertising on television, prints, billboards, and displays, and some online stuff. So that's the big thing about star power. You know, you either going to create a star from a lower echelon star, or you're going to pay the big bucks and you're going to get a superstar. And believe me when I tell you, for a superstar, you're going to pay a lot of money. And again, your client might not be able to afford that kind of a hit in their overall budget. So that's a very important thing to think about. Teenage heartthrobs, you know, they get a lot of money too. So again, you're not gonna hit the top tier teenage heartthrobs without getting hit in the pocketbook pretty big. Recruited by companies or brands that help them sell and give their credibility to a product. There are many food products and clothing lines with celebrities as spokespeople. So that's true. But again, as I say, it all depends on the food and the product. A lot of times food products, you can get a quirky star who's very humorous and very appealing. And if you have the food product promoted properly with that quirky star, it could work tremendously. Clothing line, you'd have to be a little more careful with that, because clothing line generally speaks to people's need to want to be a little bit more like other people. So, you know, you're going to want to get a star that, you know, will fit well into the clothing. A lot of times they'll pick very fit-looking stars. Even if they get the second-tier star, they'll pick ones that look pretty good, you know, because that's, again, a clothing line. You know, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll work some kind of a deal with a particular star. and their stars, clothing line becomes their name, and they get a percentage of the clothing line. I think what's her name does that. Oh, what's her name? Goldie Hawn's daughter. I can't think of what her name is right now, but she has her own line of workout clothes. I just can't think of what her name is now. I'm not really good with names of stars, I guess. So it's a strong advertising strategy for children, especially sometimes might not realize that their celebrity idols are getting paid, endorsed for the brand of their product. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's true. I think what happens, though, is very often a lot of people, older people, don't really stop and think very much that, hey, this guy's being endorsed. He's being paid to endorse this product. A lot of times they just don't think about that. I know myself. I just watch these programs, and I very seldom really think about the fact this guy's getting paid for it. I just see him do it, and if I like what I see, I'll maybe go buy it. I'm not thinking about it all that much, But that's an absolute truth. So bandwagon. No one wants to feel left out. Advertisers know this. Look out for advertising strategies with slogans that encourage you to join the crowd. Don't be left out, or everyone is doing it. This is common, but I think those are not the best examples of it, and I think it's probably done quite a bit more subtly than that. But I mean, I think he's just being obvious. I think the way he's putting this in is to be obvious. But if you were going to use this kind of a thing, I would be very careful to be more obvious and come up with a more subtle bandwagon sort of plea. It's an encouragement for people to hop on the bandwagon. So excitement. This is one that works really well. It's not always the easiest one to pull off. In commercials, billboards, other types of advertisement, you hardly see anyone who doesn't look like they're having the time of their lives doing whatever they're doing. So, if you have a product or a service that you can apply this kind of thing to, if something that you're selling or something that you're offering, you can elevate to this level of excitement, you do it. Even if it's simply eating a hamburger. Again, I think her name is Paris Hilton now I think about it. I think what they were trying to do with that Paris Hilton thing was to have her eating that hamburger, making it look exciting. I personally don't think it worked. I don't think it made it exciting at all. It just looked like she was eating a hamburger, and it was kind of a laugh more than anything else. So I don't know whether that particular one worked, but I believe that that's what they were going for. You better believe that it is the best part of their day. And I can pretty much guarantee you that eating that hamburger was not the best part of Paris Hilton's day. And I think anybody that would really believe that, well, I don't know what to say about them. The popular advertising strategy is excitement in the face of people in the ad, commercial, or billboard. So yeah, I mean, that's a way of doing it. Maybe if you can incorporate people looking extremely happy at what they're doing, then you might have something that would work for excitement. But it should really be for something which it's appropriate. And I go back to what I've said a number of times already. Every single one of these strategies has to do with something that is appropriate for whatever you are trying to market. That's really what the whole thing is. Scale. This one is one that I like quite a bit. I think I've said that to you before. It happens far too often. You see an advertisement or billboard for a drink, hamburger, or other item. When you go out to buy it, the product ends up being half the size of what you expected. But you see, that's when they do it and they don't make it work. The idea is to not make the product look bigger. You are trying to increase the sexiness of the product by making it bigger. It's not your goal to make it look like it's a big hamburger. You're not going to go and get a big hamburger. You're doing it by bringing it into an intimate level with the person so that the person can say to themselves, you know what, that looks really good. The problem is, as I said before, when I've seen some of these burger advertisements, we look at these burgers for like Burger King or McDonald's, and they look so enticing. You want to just go and get them. And then when you go and you buy them and you open up the box and you look at it and it don't look anything like that picture, it's like I mean, I've had it happen to me. Every time I do it, I have it happen. I think to myself, why did I even stop here? You know what I mean? Half the time I stop at a Burger King or a McDonald's, as soon as I open a box, I'm like, why did I stop here and do this? And every once in a while, I'll do it again. I'm not a big hamburger eater from McDonald's or Burger King. But when I'm in a certain situation, you just do it because you have no choice, really. But that's a great example of this. But the other thing is that excitement it can be great if you do it right. The whole point of this is that you make something bigger in presence, not bigger in overblowing what it is. It's just the way it is. And again, you should do it with a product where you can do it honestly. Like I said, with a hamburger, if you're making a hamburger look twice as good as it is when you open it up, you're setting all of your customers up for a big disappointment. When you apply excitement to a particular product, the product should be able to live up to that excitement. And it isn't so much that you're trying to focus on the particular thing itself. You're just trying to make it big, the presence big, so people can see it and say, oh, you know what? I've tried that before. That's really good. And somebody else will say, really? I've never tried it. It's good? Yeah, it's good. Okay, I'm going to try it now. See, that's the kind of thing that you do. And here's scale. Scale works right into it. So excitement and scale often work hand in hand. Happens far too often. Billboard, a drink, hamburger, other items, when you go out and buy it, the product ends up being half the size. So scale. And sound. In many commercials, advertisers use music or sound effects to make a product seem more appealing. I mean, this one here, I'm absolutely certain you have seen. I mean, almost every single advertisement has some kind of either created theme or a theme where they've taken a popular song from 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 50 years ago. I've seen them all. And it's very common. And some of the times they work so beautifully because what the particular designer or creative person is doing is he's creating this great image that coincides with the feel of the sound. So when you do something like this, you have to work with the visual and the sound simultaneously. You have to have an idea, you have to look at that idea, and you have to have some knowledge of sound. You have to know, where, YouTube is a place that if you want to get some sound, very easy to go get some sound in YouTube. But my point is that you have to have something visually that goes along with that particular sound. I've seen them where they don't work, and I've seen them where they do work. Okay, some of them work amazing. Some of them are absolutely, I sit there and I laugh after they're done. I'm thinking to myself, boy, somebody was inspired when they did that. And that's what I would say about sound. If you're going to use sound, then, make sure that that sound is correct for the visual and for the product. Again, I'll go back to what I was saying. Whatever you apply, make sure that you think strongly about that particular type of effect you are trying to gain from your use of element and strategies. Selective editing. In commercials for advertising, there's a lot of selective editing and omission that goes into the process. If a commercial for a basketball and a commercial shows players making perfect throws and making all their baskets, there's a good chance that any of the misses have been carefully edited out. Generally, advertisers and companies do not give you the full story about the product. Well, yes, that's very true, but it all depends on application. If part of the humor or part of the story that they're about or trying to tell you is that for some reason the player makes imperfect throws and then suddenly makes a throw which is perfect, there's a reason for it. So I think what this is really talking about is, in the case of selected editing and omissions, is that what is the reason for the editing and the omission? What is the reason for it? Is it part of the process? If it requires that perfection be demonstrated, then that's what you're going to show. If there's some level of imperfection that requires you to get to a point of perfection, then the other thing is going to take place. You're going to see imperfect throws. I'm using what they're talking about as an example. So really, it all comes down to strategy. Every single thing that we've talked about tonight comes down to strategy. You are going to provide the strategy. You are going to do the thinking. How do I apply this selective editing, this sound, this sex appeal? How am I going to apply that? And why am I applying it? What is the point I'm trying to make with it? That's really what it comes down to. Okay? Sex appeal, far too often we see beautiful women, perfect bodies, handsome men. This advertising is known as sex appeal. Sex appeal strategies by advertisers, blah, 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 blah. I don't have to tell you this. Common. We see it all the time. Matter of fact, I can think of very few advertisements on television or anywhere where even if they are not perfect bodies or even if they're not showing bodies, almost every person, unless they're doing some kind of a quirky spin on something, everybody looks good. Probably gooder than the normal, better than the normal person looks. But there are times when they have somebody who isn't quite perfect being used. There's one advertisement for kits, you know, the candy, and the guy is sitting in the library, and there's kind of a frumpy-looking redheaded librarian, and she's standing off, and he makes some kind of noise, and she comes over and goes, shh, and he sticks the candy up in her mouth, and she stands there for a second, and she bites the candy. Now, she looks actually pretty cute when the candy's up in her face, but when they show her before, she's kind of frumpy looking, and she really isn't like what they're talking about, beautiful women. But there was a point they were making to that, you know, is that she's a quirky person who they put the candy up and she eats the candy. It's a comedy. That's the whole point. So really what it is you're spinning your own little web of ideas, and you're taking these little elements and you're bringing these elements into play to create your idea. So let's see what else they got here. They got gender. What do you got? You got benefits. All right, we're almost down to the end here. So gender appeal. There are certain products that have brands which are promoted to cater to either females or males. Take cigarettes, for instance. All right, well, you know, you could say that about most products. Talk about cigarettes. Most of the time, cigarettes are gender neutral. I mean, there are cigarettes for women, there are cigarettes for men. Although, to be honest with you, I'm not almost sitting here thinking to myself, I just said there were cigarettes for men. Actually, I don't think I can really think of a cigarette that's for men. I can think of some cigarettes that were for women, but you know what? I'm not exactly sure because I, first of all, don't smoke. And I only buy certain cigarettes for the people in my family, so I'm familiar with them. I do know that they did for a time make cigarettes for ladies, but you know what? I'm wondering if they still do. I don't even know that they do. I think they might have actually done away with most of them, and now basically you're either smoking Marlboro or whatever, you know. So let's see what else it says. Some popular male-oriented cigarette brands are Marlboro cigarettes or Lava. Don't know what Lava is. Female cigarettes producing Virginia Slims. You know, I don't know whether they still make Virginia Slims. Probably if they make any particular cigarette, it would be Virginia Slims. I just don't know how many are specifically made for women. And most of the time I see women smokers, they are not smoking Virginia Slims. They are smoking something like Marlboros or whatever. You know, I'm not saying I never saw anybody smoking Virginia Slims, but from what I can think recently, I don't think I've ever seen anybody lately smoking those cigarettes. So gender appeal in that particular sense might not work, but there are definitely going to be situations where you have to think in terms of gender appeal. What I'm going to go back to you and say again is when you pick your topic, when you pick your particular company to work for, to work this on, you have to do that. You have to think about all these things. Time of day. I'm going to go to benefits of advertising strategy. All right, so here are some of the reasons as to why a company, small business, individual want to implement an advertising strategy in their own business plan. Product introductions. Say you and your company has just developed a product. There's no better way to get the word out there to the public than by advertising. You can use advertising to tell Features, benefits highlight the product has offered. Additionally, you can note any special promotions and pricings. Brand reinforce. So here we're talking about introducing a product, which is probably your biggest and hairiest fear, because this is product introduction. This is where the product is either going to make it or it's going to fail. And I mean like severely make it or severely fail. You have to have an expectation, and you have to make sure that whatever you're picking has been properly targeted, and you have the right kind of strategy to go with this, because this could just turn out to be a complete flop, and something that potentially is really a good product can be literally destroyed by having an off strategy or not have done the proper research to identify the proper group of individuals who would be interested in that product. Now, brand reinforcement, on the other hand, people lose interest and tend to forget about things easy. And, you know, they're using that, but to be totally honest with you, once you have a product going, the goal is to continually keep first of all, to keep the people that are buying your product, but second, expand your base. So what that means essentially is not worry about people losing interest and forgetting things easily, but what you're thinking about is stealing market share from competing brands. So if you have some particular brand and it's established and it's doing okay, your goal is to not so much worry about people losing interest, because if the brand is established in their minds, they'll probably continue buying it. What you want to do is you want to think of strategies that are going to make people who aren't completely aware of you more aware of you and give you a try, perhaps stealing them away from a competitor. That's really what you want to do. You want to create a stronger image to the public. Basically, you could do that by talking about the people that are trying the product and how the product is affecting them. I mean, you have to think about it, but that's really what you're trying to do here. So here's where damage control comes in. Certain products can come with certain misconceptions. As a company, you do not want your product or brand to hold any negativity in the eye to consumers. If there's any lack of information or knowledge or advertising can allow to explain your product features or benefit to clear your air. So basically, what I'm saying is, when they talk about misconceptions, it doesn't necessarily have to be a misconception. It could be a mismove. I give you an example. There was a product, one of the orange products, I think it was Tropicana, came out with a package design. And the package design, I guess they thought was an incredibly clever package design. Somebody thought it was incredibly clever. And what happened is, apparently, it wasn't so clever, and people, for whatever reason, I can't remember what it was. I remember reading about this, but it was so long ago, I don't remember all the details. The packaging actually damaged the perception, and what they ultimately had to do, and they spent, from what I understand, they spent tremendous amount of money on the package redesign, which was a container. What happened was they literally had to do a brand reinforcement, which means they had to go back and bring back certain aspects of their original packaging so that they could recapture the ground that they had lost. And that's something that you don't want to have happen, okay? So clearing the air could mean something along the lines of that. Product upgrades and improvements also fall into what I was just saying, because I am sure that the people at Tropicana thought at the time they were being incredibly clever with the package that they were putting out to the public. The public rejected it. I forget exactly why. There was a reason. I don't remember. Maybe if I get a chance, I'll look it up and I'll show it to you next week or tomorrow night. But at any rate, that's what we're doing here. Advertise wisely. An advertising strategy is essential for creating a brand recognition, increasing sales, helping making customers and the public aware of product, brand, or service. If you want to learn more about creating an advertising strategy, you can go to this, whatever. So anyway, let's go here for 1 second. No, that's not it. Nope. One discussion. I guess that's it. So let's go back. Let's go back to discussion. All right, so what you're going to do then is you're going to go through these strategies, and all you're going to do is, in your own words, tell me about the advantages and the disadvantages of each of the methods that you choose. You're going to choose 3 of them. Okay, so really, there's no concrete way that you can be certain other than what you think the advantages. I think you could probably get some of the advantages from some of the writings that you just looked at. The disadvantages, I think you're going to have to try to make up. You're going to have to think to yourself, well, what would be a disadvantage of that particular thing? I think I tried to tell you in certain cases what some of the disadvantages would be. So you're going to have to come up with the disadvantages and the advantages. I also want you to research and define 3 advanced advertising methods used in marketing and advertising, and discuss the effects these methods of advertising have on a consumer's behavior. What that means essentially is take a look at, as far as methods, we're talking about print, we're talking about online, we're talking about web ads, we're talking about billboards, we're talking about signage of all kinds, including signs that you might find on mass transportation, direct mail. There's all kinds of different things. All you have to do really is do a Google search, or go in and do a search in your, let's see where it tells you down here. Well, I guess it doesn't really tell you. I would do a Google search, and I would do a Google search on advertising methods. That's all I would need to do, is advertising methods. And I guarantee you what's going to happen is advertising methods will bring you up a whole bunch of different advertising methods. And what you would do is the same thing that we just did here. You go through them, you read them, you get an understanding of them, and choose 3 that you want to talk about. Maybe you want to talk about magazine advertisement. Maybe you want to talk about e-blasts. Maybe you want to talk about signage or billboards or something like that. Pick 3 and then talk about them. And think in terms of what could you possibly, what effects they have on a consumer's behavior. How would a consumer be affected by a billboard? First of all, where is a billboard? A billboard's on the side of a road. So billboard is something that a person drives past and looks up and see. So if you stop and think about it, that billboard has to be almost an instantaneous association. See what I'm saying? So that would be how it would affect a consumer's behavior. If the consumer isn't able to make that instantaneous connection with the symbol or the imagery or the concept that's being presented on the billboard, he's going to miss it. So that's what you're going to do. 3 strategies and 3 methods. I will see you tomorrow night. I will be back here tomorrow night from the same time. What we'll do is we'll talk about our assignment, and I will also give you some information about the assessment, which is basically an exam. I hope to see you tomorrow night. Again, you know my number. If you need anything at all, give me a call. I'm more than willing to speak to you. Thank you. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow.